Many iconic teen films were created in the 80s, 90s and 2000s, with hits like Clueless, Scream and Cruel Intentions still captivating and exciting individuals now. These films have vastly varied views on women, ranging from scenes of realization as the main female character finally understands she can be independent, to scenes where women change their appearances entirely to attract men. In this video I'll be explaining the importance of the portrayal of women, and how they have paved the way for the younger generations. I did pick this music for a reason, by the way. One of the many coming-of-age films released during this period was The Breakfast Club, which ends with the fantastic song Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds. I'll be discussing one of the two main female characters in this film, Claire. Claire is the princess of the film, pretty, popular, and not that pristine in her own words. As the film goes on, Claire becomes gradually more outspoken and puts people, especially Bender, in their place. Although she's bold and candid for the most part, she's still the main victim of sexualization in The Breakfast Club, particularly from Bender, Claire's love interest. Throughout the entire film, Bender consistently bullies her, saying her name is a fat girl's name, making fun of her for not being in a relationship, which is very hypocritical considering he's also single, and, most horrifically, sexually assaulting her by sticking his head up her skirt under a school desk. The fact that this film has become so iconic, and Bender has become an idol for so many young people is shocking. John Bender is not a good role model for anyone, particularly the demographic that this is aimed at, teenagers and young adults. He bullies, mocks and violates Claire and still gets her at the end of the movie. These stereotypes are harmful and dangerous. We should be ensuring our young people feel safe and protected, especially in a school environment. But instead, movies with these kind of characters promote quite the opposite. Teasing, bullying and harassing, no matter the situation or the reasons why, are still cruel. The infantilization towards Claire is shocking and constant. She is told to
strip to the things that you know. Shopping, nail polish, your father's BMW and your poor, rich, drunk mother in the Caribbean.
She is constantly talked down to, told not to do things, made fun of, and mocked, especially by Bender. After Claire confronts him about sexually assaulting her, he says it was an accident. He doesn't really seem to care about how much his actions have affected Claire, which shouldn't be the case. When movies depict sexual assault as something characters can brush off, it becomes more common for it to be brushed off in real life too. This can be incredibly harmful, make victims less likely to come out with sexual violence stories, and create a lack of safe spaces for victims and survivors of sexual assault. The second film I want to delve deeper into is Mean Girls. On the surface, this seems like a film about popular girls finally getting what they had coming, but this movie has many underlying and constant themes of misogyny. I'll mainly be discussing the Queen Bee, Regina's, influence on young women, and talking in general about Gretchen and my personal favourite character, Karen. Regina, being the Queen Bee, is the most attractive and popular, and the meanest. For the most part, she is seen as untouchable. She doesn't really show many emotions, and barely any that are negative, until she realises that Katie was tricking her all along, and wasn't actually her friend. It's maybe because she was considered untouchable that she was openly bullied by Janice and Damien. One of the worst insults she was called was from Janice. According to her, Regina is a selfish, backstabbing, slut-faced hoe bag. This phrase really stuck with me. Very few men would ever be described using these words, especially slut and hoe, which are only really used to describe women. I won't talk about this for too long, but there are many offensive words used to describe women that are comparing them to sex workers. Obviously there's nothing wrong with sex work, but it's interesting to think about how most terms used to degrade women are all to do with sex and their bodies. Anyway, back to Regina. Not only do people create a toxic environment around her, but Regina also creates a toxic environment around herself too. During the scene where all four girls are at her house, she goes and stands in front of the mirror to complain about the things that she doesn't like about herself. The other girls, except Katie, follow suit, and when they're all done, they turn to Katie to see what she will talk about. This is such an interesting moment, a real turning point for Katie. She's finally changing her personality to match the plastics, and even though it's a bit of a weird thing to be insecure about, it shows that she's becoming a plastic. This is dangerous to portray though. The plastics are viewed as hot, popular and cool, adored and maybe even feared by everyone. Most teenagers would do anything to be like that, but scenes like these could promote behaviour that leads to body dysmorphia. Like, who wouldn't want to be like Regina? Attractive, able to get any boy that she wants. Of course young adults and adolescents would want to be like her, copy her, which also means copying her dangerous, self-destructive behaviour. This could lead to more and more insecurity in teenagers, especially teenage girls, and a lower sense of self-worth, as more and more people would be looking at themselves in the mirror and pointing out things that they hate about themselves, just like Regina. There's less to say about the other two characters, but Gretchen is pretty much the stereotype of the talkative, insecure girl. She gossips, she knows everything about everyone. She tells everyone's secrets to Regina and then Katie, and she follows whoever's in charge. She barely ever takes control of her own life and is pretty much just obedient to whoever the Queen Bee is. It's not only her peers who are victim to her gossip, but also adults, especially Regina's mother, with a comment about her boob job becoming a massive part of her character for the scenes that she's in. Gretchen is more emotional than the others, and keeps her mean girl attitude even after the plastics go their separate ways. She never really becomes independent, she's just moving from one leader to the next. Although there's not really much to say about the influence she had on other women, Gretchen is such an interesting character to analyse. She's never a leader, always a follower, yet has such an effect on everyone at North Shore's life. One rumour and their entire reputation is gone. I love Karen Smith so much. She's such an interesting character. She's so desperate to fit in with the plastic. She knows all of the rules of the outfit with her iconic line.
On Wednesdays we wear pink.
She is oblivious, ditzy, and promiscuous. Not only does she know this, but she's told this by Regina as she starts to break down.
Hey, God, Karen, you are so stupid!
She doesn't really get involved in drama in the same way. Because of her oblivious nature, it's pretty much impossible to break her, so luckily, Katie's plan with Janice doesn't really involve her in the same way as it did Regina and Gretchen. Honestly, I just love her so much. She is funny and probably the nicest of all of the plastics. She doesn't resent any of the other characters in the same way that the other girls do. Although it looks like all I've done in the last 10 minutes is complain about these films, I think it's important to remember that just because the way these movies portray women is problematic and promotes backward thinking and outdated beliefs, these films are still exciting, fun, and enjoyable. I mean, I have a massive Breakfast Club poster in my room. One of my favourite characters of all time is Karen, who pretty much encapsulates the dumb blonde with no real character development other than leaving the plastics and becoming the weather girl. What I'm trying to say is that however perverse the views on women are in these films, you can still enjoy them. It's important to not feel guilty or bad in indulging in these films. They're still good. They're well written with great actors, and I don't really think that they'll ever get old. It's just important to understand that the way these women are portrayed is obsolete, and can be dangerous for watchers, especially young and naive teenagers.